Okay, good afternoon. It's March 8th, 2023. My name is Jim Brewer. I'm the hearings officer for the city of Salem. We have one thing on our agenda tonight. I'm going to briefly outline the hearing procedures. We have one case. It's case number CUSPR 23-01. The order of tonight's proceedings will be a staff report to be presented by, give me your name again.
That's Peter Downey.
Thanks, Peter. We'll take the applicant's presentation. We'll limit that to 15 minutes. You don't need to take the full 15 minutes if you don't want to, but we'll have that much time. The neighborhood report, if there is any, and I don't think we're going to have one tonight, that'll be limited to 10 minutes. Then we move to public testimony. Again, if there is any, we take testimony in favor of the application, limited to 5 minutes, testimony in opposition, limited to 5 minutes per person, testimony that's neutral, limited to 5 minutes, rebuttal by the applicant, limited in scope to issues raised in opposition, again, limited in time to 5 minutes. For people who do testify tonight, we ask you to give your name and address so that the recording can pick it up. People testifying may request a continuance to address additional documents or evidence submitted in favor of this application. If this request is made, please identify the new document or evidence during your testimony so I can determine whether continuance is warranted. Persons testifying may also request a record remain open for 7 additional days to submit additional written evidence. Again, if that's a request you're going to make, do it during your testimony. We'll deal with that when we get to there. I want to quickly direct your attention to the applicable criteria found in the notice. The testimony and evidence for the public hearing tonight should be directed towards these criteria because that's where we're going to make the decision. We have really 2 decisions that this application asks for: continue a conditional use permit and a class 3 site plan review. For the conditional use, pursuant to SRC 240.005 sub D, an application for conditional use permit shall be granted if all the following criteria are met. 1, the proposed use is allowed as a conditional use in the zone. 2, the reasonably likely adverse impacts of the use on the immediate neighborhood can be minimized through the imposition of conditions. And 3, the proposed use will be reasonably compatible with and have minimal impact on the livability or appropriate development of the surrounding property. For the class 3 site plan review, pursuant to SRC 220.005 sub F sub 3, application for a class 3 site plan review shall be granted if A, the application meets all the applicable standards of the UDC, B, the transportation system provides for the safe, orderly, and efficient circulation of traffic into and out of the proposed development, and negative impacts to the transportation system are mitigated adequately. C, parking areas and driveways are designed to facilitate safe and efficient movement of vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. And D, the proposed development will be adequately served with city water, sewer, stormwater facilities, and other utilities appropriate to the nature of the development. For people, including the applicant who are here this evening, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city or other parties the opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the State Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. So if there's a point you want to make, it's the time and place to do it. You may not be able to later. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So if there's a problem with one of the conditions, it's the time and place to bring it up, or you may not be able to later. For anybody, are there objections on jurisdictional grounds on the holding of this hearing, meaning this isn't the kind of thing that ought to come to the hearings officer? Not seeing any objections. So this is CUSPR 23-01 1290 12th Street Southeast. Do we have the staff report then?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Peter Downey with the Planning Division of the City of Salem, presenting on behalf of Aaron Panko, the case manager, entering into the record this staff report presentation for conditional use permit and site plan review, CUSPR 2301.
And those are interesting. You're doing fine. Anytime you pinch hit, there's going to be a weird.
You have to reshare it.
Oh. Is it the bar? There you go.
Okay. So the subject property is 2.25 acres in size and located at 1290 12th Street Southeast, about 4 blocks south of Mission Street and 2 blocks southeast of Bush Park and 1 block from Pringle Creek. The property has 135 feet of street frontage along 12th Street Southeast and 80 feet of street frontage along Wilbur Street Southeast. The subject property is zoned IC, industrial commercial, shown in purple. According to the Salem Revised Code, marijuana production use are allowed in the IC zone with a conditional use permit. The same block to the north and east, the property is surrounded by the IC zone. Across Wilbur Street to the south and across 12th Street to the west, the property is adjacent to CG zone, general commercial, shown in magenta. Under a previous conditional use permit, the same applicant was approved for marijuana production use at the neighboring property to the east. The IC zone generally allows a wide variety of retail, office, heavy commercial, light manufacturing, and warehousing activities. The neighboring CG zone generally allows a wide variety of commercial uses, including performances of services, repair facilities, motor vehicle sales and services, and so forth. Here's an aerial view of the property and the surrounding area. Here's the property view looking east from 12th Street to the existing building. It's been an auto repair business for many years. The proposed development includes interior alterations to the existing building, and no changes are proposed to the building footprint or parking lot, except to restripe an existing parking space to include 188 compliant space. Again, looking northeast from the corner of 12th Street and Wilbur. As stated, marijuana production uses are allowed in the IC zone with a conditional use permit. This public review process provides an opportunity to evaluate the compatibility of a proposed use with the surrounding area to minimize any reasonably likely adverse impacts through the imposition of conditions. When allowed as a special use in other zones, marijuana production facilities are subject to standards concerning visual and odor impacts, requiring marijuana production in these zones to take place indoors with the installation of an air filtration system to mitigate odors. These 2 standards are recommended as conditions of approval to minimize these potential impacts of the subject property. On to the site plan review. The site plan review process ensures that any new development follows the development standards of the zoning code. In general, these standards include maximum building height, lot coverage, setbacks, off-street parking standards, landscaping. Proposal is for a change of use only and does not include any expansion of the existing building or changes to the vehicle use area, other than the restriping of the ADA compliant parking space as mentioned previously. According to the Salem Transportation System Plan, 12th Street does not meet the minimum improvement width or right-of-way width required for its classification as a major arterial. The existing street system is adequate to serve the proposed development, and no right-of-way dedication or street improvements are required. However, staff recommends a condition of approval that the proposed development be subject to a special setback equal to 34 feet from the center line of the development side of 12th Street. The property line is currently at about 28 feet. As the existing striping of the parking spaces along 12th Street cross into the public right-of-way, staff also recommends a condition of approval that the applicant install wheel stops along these parking spaces so that no portion of a vehicle will overhang or project into required setbacks, landscaped areas, pedestrian access ways, streets or alleys or abutting property. Lastly, while no new structures are proposed, the property is in the floodplain overlay zone, and staff recommends a condition of approval for the applicant to obtain a floodway development permit at the time of building permit approval for any development within the floodplain. Notice of the application and public hearing was provided to the Southeast Salem Neighborhood Association and surrounding property owners and residents. As of the time of this hearing, no comments were received during the public comment period. In conclusion, with the recommended conditions of approval, that the marijuana production be conducted indoors, that an air filtration system be installed, the development be subject to the special setback of 34 feet from the 12th Street center line, and the installation of wheel stops for parking spaces along 12th Street, and the applicant obtain a floodplain development permit. Staff finds that the application is compliant with the approval criteria and recommends that the hearings officer approve the conditional use permit and site plan review collective application subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation.
Got a couple of questions.
Okay.
So the first one actually has to do with the parking. If you look, we go back to the slide with the site plan review.
Yep.
So if we have the special setback, parking is allowed within the special setback area.
Good evening, Olivia Diaz, planning, current planning manager. So parking can be allowed with a revocable permit in the special setback. The site is pre-existing, non-conforming, so there's no revocable permit. We're not Public Works is not asking to remove the spaces in the special setback, just acknowledge that there is one, any future development or removal of asphalt would have to meet that standard.
And the condition is worded so that the wheel blocks would prevent a vehicle from intruding into the sidewalk. Is that something that is normally handled at a building permit or
If it's conditioned on the site plan review, then it will be reviewed at building permit.
having walked into receiver hitches that have, when somebody's backed into a parking space? Then the other one is the condition on the floodplain permit. And I'm assuming that's only required if, and I forget now the particular term, but you're not required to get that unless there is
If the development meets the definition of substantial improvement,
that's what I was looking for.
if it does, then the building must be brought into compliance with the current floodplain overlay zone regulations, SRC Chapter 601.
Okay, so I may tinker with that condition some to make it clear that they're not required to get a permit if there's no requirement to get the permit. Okay, thank you. You did a good job. With that, would the applicant like to make a presentation? You may, you're not required to, we're not gonna force you to.
Not much, sir. Fully agree.
Come on up and we'll get you on the record and make you be on the camera.
My name is Danny Kim, I'm the applicant of the board. I'll make it very simple. We do really the review of the city's assessment for the application we submitted. And we do really well over everything. We totally agree with all the recommendation and condition, and they came along with the application and would do whatever is required by the city to complete the project that we have, and just that's just about it. And just thank you for all the work that you guys put up and take the time today also. So hopefully it will go as we expected. That's all.
Okay, I don't have any questions for you, and thank you, that was very direct. We're gonna go through, I'm gonna ask if there are other people who want to testify, but I don't think there are going to be. So what I'm gonna do now is ask you just to hang on for a second. We'll go through those and then I'll come back, or I will forget to ask you if you waive the opportunity to provide a final written argument. So, but I don't think anybody else is going to stand up. Let's see if they are. So, do we have anybody? We don't have anybody from the neighborhood association. Is that correct? Do we have anyone who wants to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing against. Anybody against? Anybody neutral? I think I'm looking at the applicant's team. That means no rebuttal. So would you like to waive the time that you get to 7 days for an additional final written argument?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll note that you waived that. With that, I'm going to close the hearing. Well, thank you for showing up. These hearings are important as a part of the city's land use process. I'm going to approve the application. I'm going to probably tinker with a couple of the conditions just slightly, but they're going to be very much like the staff recommendation for approval.
Oh, yes, sir. One quick question. So,
Okay, are we reopening the hearing, or is this for staff?
I'm sorry, sir. Just one quick question. Yeah, permit for the flow show. So, is it still required, or are you gonna drop it?
You asked about the floodplain permit,
Oh.
you're gonna.
Yes, sir. Are you gonna drop that condition?
I'm not gonna drop it. I'm going to amend it slightly so that it says if one is required,
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
then get that permit.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we really are closed. The hearing is closed. Thank everybody for their participation and have a good evening.